I'm here in Eugene, Oregon, where I've been meaning to come visit for some time, or at least hoping to, and never mind the whole cannabis culture question for a second, because I got to talk to you about some tacos. I had two at a place called Taco Vor, which is like 5 blocks from this motel that I'm staying in. Not even, maybe 3 blocks or something. Real short walk. And damn, it was really good. The there was one called the Old E taco, which was like a hard shell, ground beef, uh, cheddar cheese, I think a little bit of lettuce, and a squirt of crema, and I think that's all that was. I can't remember if there was anything else in it. But the lettuce, there wasn't that much. It was, it was like a sprinkle. You could you could tell it was there, but it was, uh, and that was interesting because, it was the closest thing to a really standard sort of American-ish taco that they had. They had one that was like a special. That was like a achiote scallops taco for $5. I didn't get that, but if they have that again tomorrow, I might go back there and try that just out of curiosity. But the other one was a carnitas taco, and I am telling you, that meat was unreal. It was so good. Um, then they put some jicama, and I think it was like a extremely thinly sliced uh, pickled jalapeno, but pickled not the way I'm used to in Oklahoma or Texas or any part of, like where it was just I think it was like a pickled raw rather than probably pickled roasted. I'm not totally sure, but whatever the case. Um, and some mandarin orange slice, or yeah, clementine. I don't know. There were these little, you know, um, tiny wedges of orange, but I want to say it was like a mandarin orange. Oh my god! Now I almost ruined it because I put some habanero sauce that you can put on yourself, and I put some tomatillo sauce on that, and I tried them different ways, like each bite a little differently with the sauces and stuff. But the habanero sauce was pretty hot, and I didn't skimp on it, and it hurt me for about 5 minutes afterwards. But it was delicious anyway. The tomatillo sauce was just tasty. But that carnitas with the jicama and the orange and the crema and that meat. Oh man, what they did to that meat was so amazing. It was like totally black on the outside, but soft and not a bit too charcoaly, not burnt flavor at all. It just looked burnt. But and fatty without being greasy. That was the thing. The ground beef of the old E taco was a hair dry. I'm so accustomed to a rather greasy ground beef in even the best tacos in the Oklahoma area that I've had, and probably even in New York. If you get a ground beef taco that's good, it's going to be a little more greasy. This was dry, um, but it had a great flavor. But it was interesting because I sat at a counter, looking out the window of the front of this place, Taco For, and across the street is a dispensary called Eugene Glass Roots, and it's got painted mushrooms on the outside. Like they're paint in this building, and then behind that is a chocolate drink place. I went there and got sipping chocolate. They have other things. I didn't quite totally comprehend everything that they had. I mean, you could add, for a fee, you could add turmeric or something to your sipping chocolate or to your whatever drinks. I think they had tea also. I don't think they do coffee over there. But, I got this 3-ounce cup of sipping chocolate that was really intense. They had me try samples because it was like, it looked not exclusively to be a female situation there, um, but possibly a primarily female ran and female clientele place. But, I wasn't trying to hang out all day, so I think they were probably thinking this guy's probably just, he says he's from out of town and he was interested in the sipping chocolate. They're happy to deal with me on that level. And that is the funny thing. When I get out of town, anywhere outside of the Midwest or the Southwest or whatever that is, right? Anywhere where it's not a primarily country and western type of place, I'm not as paranoid. And I'm not worried about how I'm going to be judged. But by the same token, I'm probably a little more dull because I'm not trying to overcompensate for the fact that I'm pissed off that I'm being judged so harshly at every turn for not conforming to various gender role expectations and such and such. That the honky-tonk hegemony, the dominant culture of the Oklahoma region has, where I just don't plain fit. Look at my face. Look at this haircut and the way my beard is trimmed by my dad, who's been a hairdresser for 58 years now, at the age of 79. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to feel less paranoid. I was going to say I want to go to this one place called Lucky's, and I was going to try to go to the comedy open mic there tonight, but I have been awake. It is now, what is it, 8:30 Pacific time. So that's 10:30 p.m. Central Time, and I've been awake since 2:30 a.m., not counting about 10 minutes here or there that I seem to have nodded off on the plane to L.A. that took off from OKC this morning at 6. So I had to be up at 2:30 so that I'd be showered and ready for, actually it was more like 10 of 3. My mother didn't wake me up until 10 minutes till 3. The thing is, if I could afford enough to give her money to where she didn't have to worry about her house in perpetuity, but also have my own apartment, I might not feel as, literally undateable. Sort of I couldn't help it that I had to evoke Brody Stevens right there. Invoke, I believe, not evoke. Well, whichever the case, quoting a thing that he said, and it was, not that I know TMZ, but I think it was a comment that he was doing when he was doing bits that they were using in one of their commentary shows. I think. Whatever the case, it was one of the most amazingly hilarious and also sad things I've ever seen. But I feel maybe undateable in a different way from Brody Stevens did, the way he seems to have. But is that what was really going on with him? I mean, and I walk around Norman, Oklahoma all the time knowing somebody's fucking with me at every turn, or there's that possibility, and I need to be on fucking guard. And that's not how I want to live. I don't necessarily have to be going around I mean, not that there'd be anything wrong with wanting to be loving, but I'm not looking to embody a hippie stereotype either. I'm not looking to embody a heterosexual male stereotype, whatever that is, but I'm not looking to embody the type of man who wants so badly to be feminist he negates his own crude and rude sexual nature, or market the facts of my personal life and my family and the situation I find myself in at the age of 48 and not having had sexual intercourse in 4.5 years plus at this point. Yeah. Anyway, though, tacos and lots of good stuff to eat here. From what I can see. Also, in the LA airport, I bought a bagel with bacon, egg, and cheese on it for $10, which I can expect, and it wasn't terrible. The thing about it was good was the lady, there were two ladies doing the registers, and it was busy. You know, it was like 7:30 Pacific time, prime breakfast commuter hours, and it was like this lady. I'm 48. I'm gonna put her at about 50, but a very spry 50, and Latina, but without a Spanish or South American or Mexican accent that I could. It was maybe an East LA accent, so that she's somebody who grew up learning English at the very beginning. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But she just said stuff like, "Okay, it's going to be turkey sausage. Is that okay?" You know, and I'm not sure I'm doing her accent the right way. I'm not looking to focus on that. What I wanted to say is, she would say, because people would be like, "I would like the sausage, egg, and cheese on a croissant," where she says, "It's a turkey sausage, okay?" Trying to make sure they're not bothered, because the ham and the bacon were real. They weren't turkey sausage. They weren't turkey, ham, or bacon. They were real. Pork was there, but apparently the sausage is a turkey sausage. And also the menu was the lunch menu. The breakfast menu with all these things we could choose from was nowhere to be seen. So it was dysfunctionally displayed, and she has a younger, also Latina, maybe about 25, helping her, like her assistant, I think. And another person behind the scenes who would walk kind of in these cubby holes behind the restricted areas and all this, that seemed to maybe be dealing with other cooking machines back there or whatever. I'm not real sure. But the point is, I get to ordering from this lady, and I said, the bacon is real bacon. It's not turkey. Yeah, it's real bacon, And she said, you want anything to drink? I said, no, thank you. Okay, I'm going to charge you double then, because that's what I do when people don't get anything to drink. Is that okay? I'm not sure she's flirting with me, but she's teasing me. And I said, no. And she said, what do you mean no? And so I said, because you're lying to me. That's not what you do. And she said, that was a good one. Like that, like kind of... And then I think she said, thank you, darling. And having to deal with all these people. And something was burning back there. That was one of the things. It was the guy running back and forth. Or I think it was a guy. Somebody was running. And then you didn't see them for a while. And then they kind of moved past without running. But it was like, what's burning? But they couldn't really deal with that. They had to try to get these 10 people in line gotten through real fast and not have them have to wait more than a couple minutes off the line to get their bag of bagel or whatever with the turkey sausage. Is that okay? Anyway. So here we are in downtown Eugene, Oregon, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get it from the light, but if you're walking towards this, you can see it says Arty Downtown, only it's like that angle. If you're walking, you don't see the P is bent when you get to it. See? So Party Downtown is the name of this establishment here, but I just thought that was really something else. It's probably a coincidence, but the angle that I came at it said Arty Downtown, and then I was like, oh, there's a P on the other side that's bent. Okay, groovy. Peace out. Woman and a man talking, or they're just kind of hanging out in front of this one bar, and I didn't look closely at them. I'm walking past. I'm being respectful of everything, and she just said to him, there's nothing bad about this, by the way. This wasn't a bad experience. I may have misled you somehow in my body language or whatever to make you think. This is not a bad story. This is just interesting to me. She said to him, I didn't hear him speaking, but as I'm passing, all I heard was, she looked, by the way, kind of like, well, I'll tell you what she looked like in a minute. What she said was, I don't want my tone to, because I can't quite duplicate her tone, but it was on the order of, she was like, I have such a high tolerance for THC anymore that, and then by that point I was past enough that I couldn't hear her anymore, or she may have paused or whatever, but it didn't sound, the tone issue is critical here, because it didn't sound to me like she was trying to brag in any way, nor was she ashamed, nor was she chagrined over it. It was just sort of like, I got the impression maybe that she has like serious enough medical conditions that she has a high THC tolerance now, because the medicine that she needs
is stout for whatever her conditions may be. She looked, from what little I saw at the corner of my eye as I passed, she had like a straw, not quite cowboy hat, but some kind of straw hat-ish thing, and like a brown suede leather vest, very nice, over some kind of hippie bikini type outfit, a not mini skirt, but like a fairly short hippie skirt, like black boots and tattoos, and possibly weighed 100 pounds, if that, at 5'8", 5'9", tall, or fairly tall. Anyway, she then, I don't know, I just thought about that because I thought she could be a good example for somebody who is in no way threatening, but would be demonized by some of the public for circumstances entirely beyond her control, perhaps. So, a good time was had last night in downtown Eugene by yours truly. I'll tell you more about that another time. I have to vaguely plan for the evening ahead. I have to go get bus ticket. I'm going to see about what the buses are like late at night here. Or at least around 9 o'clock I'll go. And if I feel like getting a cab from Lucky's in downtown on Olive Street back to the motel here, we will see. I can afford it. It's like $7.50. It's not far, but it's about a mile. I don't really want to walk that, maybe at midnight, just because I'll be tired. All right, peace out. So here we are, my last real morning where I can wander around, do whatever I want in Eugene, Oregon. And this is Blair Street in the Whitaker neighborhood. I don't really want to leave here, but of course, and here's a place I'll probably go tonight that I have just walked in and talked to the bartender, but they're gonna have, I think, free music, and they do almost every night. And so here's a dispensary, 20 after 4. They're over, well, it's funny, it says Red Barn Natural Grocery. Lots of things seem like Red Barns at different places downtown otherwise, And I think these are different restaurants I haven't been to. So I should probably stop, but I will, I just thought I'd show you where some really awesome times were had. Okay, peace out. It's my last day here, and it's, what is it now? I think it's not quite 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm more tired than I thought I might be. I started to take a walk that was going to be 20 minutes or so. And after a couple blocks, I was like, no, I'm just going back to the hotel right now and chilling, because I'll need to be able to be alert and together tomorrow for the plane and all that stuff. And right now, I'm just probably needing the rest pretty bad, because I've went to 2 jam sessions and 2 nights in a row, and though I got home maybe about midnight or 12:30, right around 12:30 or so each night,
I think, oh, and I danced, and I didn't dance that hard last night. I danced in a wiggly kind of like this because uh, I danced more bouncing around on my joints the night before, and it took half the day yesterday to recover from that. Not that I couldn't walk around or anything, but I didn't have to nearly so much yesterday. I met with somebody here who lives here, has lived here in town for some time, um, and I can talk about that more another time. But it was like my mother hooked it up. Uh, she has a friend who said, "Oh, Beau's going to Eugene. I know people there. Let me try and hook them up with him." Just to have somebody to show me around town, and that is what happened. This gentleman took me to lunch, an older man, about 68, 9 years old, um, absolutely charming, and he drove me through the University of Oregon area and over to Springfield, across the Willamette River from Eugene, and he said the way he was driving around made it seem like it was a much bigger city than it is. Um, but the downtown strikes me, living in Norman, as like large, but it may not be nearly as large as, like, say, the downtown in Oklahoma City, but there's nothing like it in Norman. Uh, but anyway, I'm just trying to reflect what can coming summer a little bit. I want not to feel depressed by living in Norman, Oklahoma. Sometimes it's enjoyable living with my mother, other times it's hard for me. Maybe my mother would say the same about me. Um, but let's call that a separate issue from feeling a little bit like I don't have a feeling a little bit, feeling pretty much like I don't have the experiences I need to have in Norman. The bit of the social order is, I can't say it's conspiring against me as much as it has its own agenda, and I don't have a place in it. The way the cultural economy in Norman works, I have validity and viability in the classical accompaniment world, in the music theater accompaniment world, and in any kind of other accompaniment gig or sideman gig that I choose to take on. I just don't really want to do as much of that in the Norman area or even the OKC metro area as some people. And I understand, they have every right to take the types of gigs that I mean, by which I mean a lot of things like cover bands and whatever. I can certainly do the work. I do think that in the right frame of mind, my last batch of songs is pretty strong, and there's a couple of the small batch before this recent batch that I want to record in a studio fashion, not necessarily with a whole lot of money, or even like dozens upon dozens of individual tracks layered up or anything like that much of a production, but that I took about an hour and a half 2 days ago when I had time here in the hotel and was of a mind, and went over all of the stuff for the first time in weeks, maybe a couple months. And I looked at it and I thought, almost all of this holds up. It's just gonna kind of, a lot of it depend on how I sing it. Because uh, I hear it in my head. Can I make it happen the way I hear it in my head? And is that going to. I can't worry too much if it's going to translate to people or if they're going to understand it or they're going to appreciate it or whatever, except that um, I'm not going to be singing all the songs the same way. I have an identity, but I like to vocally, I like to represent different feelings, different cultural associations, different uh, geographical regions. For if I am so given to do, I'm not necessarily going to do that all the time. How much my ideas seem to be acceptable and enjoyable on even occasion to the audiences in Oklahoma City that I've played it to on those 3 occasions in the last year and a half that I've played there. And then, though I was at jam nights where everything's different, I made a good impression on my fellow musicians, and we had, what do you call it, really good vibes with each other, very polite and supportive conversation. And possibly because I don't know anybody here, the dancing part of it was very easy for me. But there's also a little more room at Lucky's between the last couple of tables that are like the high tables you sit at stools at, like in the old bars of the West. But there's 2 or 3 of them, and then there's pool tables, and then there's a couple of booths and a couple of tables up against the wall that are low to the ground, and then there's this area that's for people to dance in, and the stage, and it's I've got to go back and study Touch of Grey. You cannot hear yourself on stage when you've got a whole lot of people on stage. I had a little bit more difficulty hearing myself. It was a cheaper keyboard that I was guesting on last night than the night before, the R&B jam. The gentleman had a Nord, and Nords are good. Nords are good. I can't quite deal with the button drawbars for the organ stuff on the Nord very well. I think it's much more difficult for me than drawbars on the real thing on a Hammond B3. Even though I'm not going to tell you I'm like a complete expert at that, I get it. I've played with those just enough that I feel marginally in control of that aspect of playing the Hammond B3. Whereas with the Nord, that I can't. But the timbre of the electric piano sound and stuff, or any number of them, because there's like a good Rhodes sound, a good whirly sound, all these things on the wonderful synth sounds on the Nord. The Nord is like a $2,500 keyboard, something like that, whereas it was a Yamaha keyboard that probably cost $600 retail. And it didn't have. The Nord is 88 keys, right? The Yamaha was 76. It wasn't. It was not the tiny one, but it wasn't the full, right? So and the touch sensitivity was like there was quiet and loud and very very little in between. The organ sounds good on Yamaha, but you can't do much. You might have a modulation wheel, and that's it. I didn't even think about that because it was hard enough to be sure I was playing the right thing. A Touch of Grey, I got to go back and study. The drummer said when I got up there first, the first song we did where I got up, because I talked to him before they got on, and he was like, how about second set? He says about 11:15. I was like, that's great, thank you. And so I listened to their first set, and so then the first song, he asked me, do you feel like a stranger? And I do. And I didn't really make any mistakes with it, although like the doo-dee-doo, 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 things like that, I was trying to find the notes in all the noise at moments like that, or the whatever. I'd need to be sure. I need to go back and get the precision down. I get the general gist and all the funky chords that Bob Weir comes up with. I had that, but Touch of Grey, that was noisy enough that, but the guy singing lead was a much older fella, like 60, 65, compared to the other guy who was doing the Jerry songs and looked a little bit like Jerry might have when Jerry was about 26, he, well, he would play a loud guitar chord once in a while, but for whatever reason, nobody seemed to be playing the C sharp minor that begins the bridge of Touch of Grey loud enough for me to hear it. And I don't know where Bassman was. Bassman at the Grateful Dead jam was the same guy all night. So he had moments of sounding great. He took a solo that was really fun and tasty, but it was like he was probably having a little trouble hearing himself, and I don't know, but it all had a good cooperative spirit. I'm just saying I'm kind of embarrassed that I had trouble with the bridge of Touch of Grey, and actually once I realized where there were the first time, I like by about the second line, yeah, toward the end of the second line and right before the third line, the first bridge, because there's two bridges, they're the same chord progression, just different words in Touch of Grey. I got it, more of it right the first time. The second time, I was so lost in what I was hearing, it was like I couldn't play any of that. I couldn't find the chords. And that's kind of embarrassing. I mean, it's freaking Touch of Grey, it's their one top 10 hit. It's the song so many people think of when they think of the Grateful Dead. And then they did Eyes of the World, and that has never been my favorite Grateful Dead song. I like the version on Wake of the Flood the most. The live jam part is beautiful, but the song itself doesn't usually do much for me, and that's funny because I usually love Jerry up-tempo numbers. Jerry slow numbers are never as much my thing usually, with a few exceptions, but I'll fast forward past them a lot. But the up-tempo Jerry I tend to really enjoy. Although, for example, When Push Comes to Shove, I'm not that big on, and that's essentially an up-tempo Jerry. But it's the thing is, Eyes of the World is a pretty bunch of chords to noodle on, and the jam part that goes to like a kind of G sharp minor jam. That's fun. Then what'd they do? Man Smart, Woman Smarter, and then I finally wanted to get off stage because there was another keyboardist, and he had done a really good job. He was kind of holding it together. Drummer played great drums, except sometimes it was kind of like, I just wonder, the fact that they probably never rehearse or whatever, or maybe they've done it a long time and they're bored with because Brown Eyed Women, the first set was way too fast. It was just, but people were dancing, and but young Jerry, the guy in his 20s or so, you know, like he would just kind of scream the vocals sometimes. Nothing at all like Jerry would have done, or nothing at all like anybody in the Grateful Dead would have done. Although Bob Weir occasionally does do something sort of like this. This guy was considerably more over the top with his kind of, I'm just going to shout this because I don't quite have, well, there's such a raging storm, you know, he probably couldn't, like, maintain the muscle memory to sing delicately, or couldn't hear him. I don't know. It was just a very odd thing at the one level, but then when you go outside and you listen through the glass window and everything, and you can hear him on the street, but it's not like blazing loud. But you know, before I went home, I'm waiting for the cab, and they're doing "Hey Pocky Way" in there, and it was real savage, like I say, but fun. It had some kind of spirit, and definitely the other keyboardist was holding stuff down that I would really need to go back and study stuff to be. But it's an adverse working condition to play complicated songs with people you've never played with before, and it's a adverse condition even when people have played together with each other a lot, they're winging it on complicated songs that they don't adequately rehearse and nail down so that they all know exactly what they're doing. It's adverse working conditions when not everyone is in the same skill set level, though sometimes obviously some allowances or some adjustments can be made for that. But you know, the general culture here has a humor about it. It has a certain enjoyment. There was the drummer asked me, "When are you moving to Oregon?" There was more to it than that, but I said, "Well, I think about a year." And this red-haired hippie lady, about 25, dancing, a whole lot of red hair, said, "Make it sooner," you know, and I just laughed and nodded at her, you know, whatever. But, you know, there's a kindness to visitors. So suppose I move to a new place, wherever it is, and they're kind to visitors. If I act like I'm a visitor while I'm actually there full time, I can't go wrong, right? Especially if I'm new. You can start to become involved and not be completely removed. It's just that if you seem to be somebody who can be a good visitor, a good guest, when you move to someplace new, you can think of it in that way. Anywho.
My opinion, as somebody who's been on the end of, I have a situation in my life where there was a decision that was out. It wasn't a decision, it was a circumstance. And I've been in a situation with a girlfriend where the flat out decision was out. And all the things I've been in 3 years. My situation has created unique perspective. And my perspective is that my first girlfriend that supported her child at the time of her father was well within her right to do that. And it was her decision to make, not mine. What?
That's the best thing ever, right?
That's good. That's good. When you're going to go for a child, look at that.
This here is the backside of a skate park that's over that way. We're between two parts of a highway overpass or something, and so, but the amount of green, it's called the Emerald City, and I mean, it is May, so spring, but I mean, it's particularly hitting me today just how, you know, green everything is. And yeah, that's kind of restorative somehow. Okie doke. Later. That there is a bicycle rack. It says, yeah, it's hard to see, but OSLP, Oregon State, or something, I can't remember. Arts and culture. And then over here is a tiny little mountain, and I don't know if that's private property. I'm willing to bet it is, but it would be really great to get up in there, of course. And then here's the back of Paulson and Rolls Laboratories Janitor's Warehouse, and you got, look at that art there, you know. This here has a gallery I may go in pretty soon, and this is off the, I don't know if this is the Whitaker neighborhood anymore. I've walked a few blocks further, and the Wheel, a pizza pub. I guess I'm gonna cut this short and go into a gallery. All right, peace out. Pretty soon it's gonna be time for one of my multiple baths that I've taken here. Not so much, more soaks, I should say, you know. I just have taken advantage of that. It has made a huge difference. So, here in a minute, we'll be tub bound, submerged, or partly, mostly, in the warming water that I've needed for longer than I even understood. It was given to me, this t-shirt. I didn't buy it, so.
It's a fairly old design. I mean, yeah, I saw that. I saw that, that actually, that's like 91 or 92, the image, first image. Totally a last time. The shirt, who knows?
Right.
In any case, that's funny.
And then of course the back of this, I don't know if you've seen, I don't know. Yeah, that's like the.
I think I saw that on hats originally.
So, I don't know what they're talking about. It's reggae. I like it a lot, but Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is something biblical, and I know the Beastie Boys deal with that somehow in Paul's Boutique. And anyway, just finished doing the church gig. Went fine. Here I'm in the parking lot of the Walmart. The Palmart. Alright. Well, anyway, I do feel it's interesting. As a complete stranger in Eugene, Oregon, I was relevant. Or at least I had a space of my own that, like maybe it was within me, but whatever it was, there was a sense of not belonging. Not so much belonging completely, although it varied from place to place. Some places I certainly felt I belonged. And other places it wasn't that I didn't belong as much as I didn't feel I didn't belong. Or it was not as much my cup of tea, but it was totally cool for what it is and stuff. And I could be there. There's this place, Sam Bond's Garage, that was so packed. I find I am getting old, and it's hard for me to stand for long periods of time if I'm listening to music with a whole lot of other people nearby that's kind of on the grungy, punky side. They were real good, this group, the Ferns, and there's other things. I mean, I'm already talking about music, but it's like, and I'll talk more about that. The thing is, I want to express myself. I have not expressed myself enough over the last 2 years or so. In order to express myself artistically as a musician, live in Norman, I have to do things I don't want to do. In Oklahoma City, I don't have to. But I just wonder if I can feel less irrelevant here. I feel like as a guest, as a tourist, as a vacationer, as somebody of like mind, wherever or whoever that is, I do pretty well, except here, I don't necessarily get along well across the board with everybody that I'm of like mind with, any more than I get along with the people that I am not of like mind with, although professionally, I have to deal with some of those people, and they're at least polite to me, and it's my job to return that. Sorry. Sorry, Toaster Brunchy Rock or whatever. I just, now I got the floor. You were providing background music there. All right. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out how I can possibly feel less pathetic here, because I really do kind of feel like nothing is working the way that I want it to, except that my professional situation, like my church job, and during the school year, playing for students and for voice auditions at OU and things like that, I am not displeased. It isn't the way I want to spend the rest of my life, but as a day job, I am, for the most part, not displeased. The pianos deteriorate over the time in the semester, and some of them, especially in the practice rooms, are not maintained well enough for me to feel comfortable playing them on a regular basis towards the end. Just before I got cut off, I was just trying to finish up saying I want to figure out how I can feel less pathetic here. And the only thing I can think of is to try to figure out how to make new friends that I don't know and that don't know a whole bunch of the people that I know already. 'Cause that's the problem. It's when there's a group, or not even a clique, just a group, and there's people who are threatened by me or don't like me or whatever,
even though I can navigate that by avoiding them for the most part, it's the fact that there are people that I like who like the people who don't like me, or that I don't like, that I can't swallow anymore. Just don't have the patience or the time. I've got to have more self-respect than that. I can't be around the situations that are counterproductive to my progress because of people who find me a dangerous competitive element. Socially and in the street music scene. When it comes to classical music, thank goodness I'm strong enough here that I don't have to throw any weight around. I don't have to stand up for myself, other than once in a while I have to try to watch out for being not taking on work at the last minute. But it happens inevitably for any freelancer in any field. You're going to have some of those, and sometimes you just have to say no, and the person that wants you to fill in for them in the last minute is just going to have to deal. But that isn't something that really worries me. So anyway, I'm talking about friends and anyone who might care what I do artistically of my own. I got to figure something out. Okay, here's the deal. At Sam Bond's garage, I went there Wednesday to inquire about the music that would be going on. Or no, it was Thursday I went. And they said, well, 10 o'clock tonight is so-and-so. That was really, really fun and da-da-da. And you should, very jammy. And I was like, I'm sorry, I already have plans tonight, but tomorrow night. Anyway, this lady who was a bartender and waitress at she might have been a shift manager too, for all I know, at Sam Bond's garage. She's like, hope you'll come back. I didn't buy anything or whatever. I just left, and then but she was like, hope you'll come back. And I come back, and I said, she's like, how you doing today? When I'm about to order dinner. She goes, well, and I said, well, I gotta move. I gotta go back to, not move. I gotta fly back to Oklahoma tomorrow. Kind of don't want to leave or whatever. But what was interesting is I thought I don't know what I said exactly. I can't remember. But what happened was she goes, did you have a good day today though, huh? And kind of rubbed me on the arm like patting I don't know, a child or something. I think I must have seemed sadder than I knew I was or something. Here's the deal. I could walk around with full empathy flaming in Eugene. That doesn't mean I didn't have any guard up. It's a city. You walk around and you assess everybody individually as to whether they're a danger to you or not. It's just what you do. But you can see, maybe because I'm unfamiliar with it, and that's the thing. I'm back here and I'm at the Walmart, I'm at the Homeland or whatever, and I see people and I see much of the same thing that I saw in Eugene. The basic humanity, the fact that so many people struggle one way or another. But familiarity has bred contempt on my part for my hometown. And more specifically, certain people in it that I can't really be around. So, how to get around all of that is what I'm trying to figure out, because it would be good if I could go around having the same empathy for Oklahomans as I do for Oregonians. It would seem to make sense, no matter where I live. It would be great. So, but that's where I'm at, and I'm like emotional at the moment, even though I'm not like gonna break down. I'm emotional, and that's not bad, but it's not popular as a modus operandi for a cisgender heterosexual ginger male in Oklahoma. Maybe if I take off my glasses, I'll look more, sufficiently masculine or something. I don't know. But, yeah, gender role expectations don't exist in Eugene. Eugene, land of cardamom rose tea, coconut milk ice cream, lavender mint sipping chocolate, and incredibly friendly lesbians. A very, very sprinkling few gay men. That is to say, those that I would look at and say they are presenting as gay. An older gentleman who doesn't look one way or another, happens to be gay, that my mother knows somebody who knows, took me to lunch, a gentleman about 70. And he was like, yeah, there's a stranger in town. We'll show him the town for a couple hours. And it was beautiful. But I'm saying you see a whole lot more women with extremely short hair or one kind of alternative haircut or another than the guys who, more of them on the street than not, seem to be straight. So that's interesting. Does it matter? It only matters insofar as the women who one might look at and say they could be lesbian just based on how they look, which isn't any kind of barometer, but let's say it has to do with haircut and things like that. Then, just on a superficial level, maybe they feel more accepted by the general area and are hence less defensive. Yet, here, I don't know that I feel under attack by the lesbian community. I think there are some women in town who are here very rather emotionally irresponsible with their sexuality, whether they're bi, lesbian, straight, or what. Whether they decide to declare one way or another or not. And it's because I know them personally that I know that things are not right there. But since I don't know anybody personally in Eugene, I'm dealing with everything on a superficial level. But nonetheless, people got good manners in Oregon, by and large, at least the parts I've seen. And so, I want to have good manners and not feel like people think I'm a fucking pussy here, you know? Not that maybe this is the biggest problem in the world, but it's there. So, I want to be able to be emotional, have emotions, and be able to share them without it feeling like it's some kind of like a con job that I'm using for my advantage. I just want to be me. And I have a feeling there's a lot of people in Eugene that just want to be them, and they're being them. And it's going okay. Maybe that's the way it is here, but some of the way people want to be here ain't with my program. All right, well, we'll try to figure it out some more.